Good morning, everyone, and happy Easter. So today is our Easter story, but the Easter story started on Friday. We called it Good Friday, but there are some things that happened on Good Friday that really weren't as good. So I'm going to read you a story from our story Bible, the Spark Story Bible. It's the one I like the best. So I'm going to read this to you. So gather around and listen up. This is about the Last Supper. So Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world. He wanted to share his last Passover meal together with his 12 closest friends, the disciples. We learned about those these last few weeks. Jesus loved his friends and wanted to show them his love in a very caring way. As the friends got ready for the meal, Jesus put water in a large bowl and knelt down on the floor. He wanted to wash the feet of each disciple. When it was Peter's turn, Peter said to Jesus, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus replied, "Peter, you don't understand what I'm doing now, but you will later." Peter loved Jesus so much that he said, "Then don't just wash my feet, but my head and hands also." Peter wanted to be as close to Jesus as possible. There's our feet washing picture. As they were eating, Jesus sadly told his disciples, "Soon one of you will betray me. One of you will tell people who don't like me where I am so they can take me away." This upset the disciples, and each one said, "It's not me you're talking about, is it?" When Judas said this, Jesus gently replied, "Yes, Judas, you will betray me." Then Jesus picked up a loaf of bread. He blessed it and gave it to each of his friends, saying, "Take this bread and eat it. This is my body." Then Jesus picked up a cup of wine. He gave thanks and said, "Drink this. It is my blood, which I must give up so that the sins of my people may be forgiven." There he is with his disciples. Do you see Bartholomew in there? We learned all of their names. When the meal was over, Jesus and his friends went to a place called the Mount of Olives. And Jesus said sadly, "Soon you will all leave me." Peter felt bad. "Even if all the others leave you, I won't," he said. Jesus looked at his dear friend and said quietly, "Before the sun rises, you will pretend that you don't know me 3 times. Peter said, "Jesus, I love you way too much to ever do that to you." And all the other disciples said the same thing. So there's Peter and Jesus talking. Peter saying, "I would never do that." But guess what? That did happen. Peter did betray him, and so did Judas. And when that happened, it was the day that Jesus had died. It was a very sad day when Jesus died. The soldiers who had arrested Jesus teased him for pretending to be a king. I mean, he probably didn't look like a king. He came in, you remember, on a donkey. Most kings don't ride donkeys. They have fancy horses. They took his clothes and put a king's purple cloak on him. They made a crown of vines with sharp thorns and put it on Jesus' head. And the soldiers made Jesus carry a heavy wooden cross. The cross was way too heavy for him. Jesus fell and skinned his knees, and the cross tumbled to the ground. A man in the crowd carried the cross the rest of the way for him. The soldiers nailed Jesus' hands and feet to the cross. They raised Jesus' cross up on a hill between 2 other men. The other men were thieves, and they were being crucified too. One of the men was really angry with Jesus. He said, "If you're a powerful king, why can't you save yourself? And why don't you save us too?" Then the man spat at Jesus. But the other thief believed in Jesus. He shouted back, "Don't you know who this is? This is God's son. He hasn't done anything wrong. We are being punished for our mistakes. But Jesus shouldn't be here." The man turned to Jesus and asked, "Will you take me to heaven with you?" And Jesus looked at the man and loved him. Jesus told him, "Yes, today we will be in heaven together." There's Jesus with his cross and his crown of thorns. After a while, the world grew very dark, as if a terrible thunderstorm was coming. It was as if all of creation was crying because Jesus was about to die. Jesus was feeling alone and prayed to see if God was still there. Of course, God never left Jesus. God was with him the whole time. Jesus looked at the crowd. He was so sad that the people didn't believe that he was God's son. He asked God to forgive them for killing him. The soldiers offered him some sour wine, but he didn't want to drink it. He was ready to die. Finally, Jesus had fought for long enough. He said, God, the work you gave me to do here is finished. He breathed a final, long, slow breath, and then he died. So 3 days later, which would be today, Easter Sunday, it was early in the morning on the third day after Jesus died. The sky was pink and red with the first light of the sun. The women didn't notice the sky. They hurried to the cave that contained Jesus' body. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, led the way. 2 others, Salome and Joanna, carried the spices to rub on the body of Jesus. They had a job to do. So there are the women going into the tomb. It's just like a big cave. When the tomb of Jesus came into sight, they froze. Oh, they'd forgotten about that huge stone that sealed up the opening to the cave. How on earth were they going to move it? The women kept on going to the cave anyway. And as they came closer, they could see that the stone was already rolled away. They peeked inside. Oh, boy, was it dark in there. And it was really cold in there, too. And they could hear the drip drops. It was damp in there. But wait, it was empty in there. Jesus was gone. An angel appeared in sparkling white clothes. The glow from the angel brightened even the darkest corners of the cave. The women shielded their eyes from the blinding light. Don't be afraid, the angel said. Jesus isn't here. This is a place for the dead, and Jesus is alive. Hurry, the angel said. Go tell the disciples. The women did not delay. They ran to tell Jesus' friends what they had seen and heard. Mary bumped into a man, tripped and fell at his feet. Wait, she knew those feet. A familiar hand reached out to help her. Wait, she knew that hand. She looked up. Yes, she knew that smile. It was Jesus. Hello, friends, Jesus said. Jesus was really alive. The women hugged his feet and shouted with joy. Go tell the others the good news, that I am alive, Jesus said. I will meet them in Galilee. I can't wait to see them again. The women had a new job to do. They had to tell everyone that Jesus was alive. So that's the story of our Easter morning. There's their faces as they looked into the cave or the tomb. So this morning when you woke up, did you get to go find something? Did you maybe have an Easter basket? And in your Easter basket, maybe did you have a chocolate bunny? Or maybe a new stuffed bunny? Or maybe some Peeps? Or some jelly beans? Here are some of the eggs that are in our basket. These are eggs that we colored together as a Sunday school. And look, here's another egg. Let's see what's in it. It's empty, like the tomb. But remember, we shouldn't be sad because this emptiness represents life. The fact that Jesus rose from the dead and he lives for all of us. So today, when you're maybe finding some Easter eggs with your family, or playing some Easter games, or telling some family stories, I want you to think about today and what you're doing and what the Easter story means. Because there are lots of things that remind us of Easter, but they don't have a whole lot to do with the Easter story, maybe except for the egg. So today's time, we'll hear that there was joy and sadness in Jesus' experience. We know that on Good Friday, everybody was sad because Jesus died. But then they were so happy 3 days later because he got to rise from the dead. This reminds me of something else. Does anybody know what this is? This is a caterpillar. So, you know, the caterpillar, when he turns into something else, first he goes into a little cocoon. And you know, in the cocoon, the caterpillar, he doesn't die. What does he do? He wraps up for a little while, and then he comes out as a butterfly. He has new life. So just think, when he was a caterpillar, he could move around a little bit. He'd have to crawl here and there and up and down and eat some leaves. But think how far he can go as a new, beautiful butterfly. So today's events remind us of that caterpillar and butterfly. Those times when you think that something's gone and it's not gone. It's just hidden for a little bit and it turns into something even more beautiful. On the website, I have an activity where you make a butterfly. So ask your family about it. And there's also a crossword puzzle you can do. And there are some games about caterpillars and butterflies that you can play. I really hope you have a great Easter Sunday and a happy Easter, and that you remember that you're all loved, and I miss you more than you know. And sooner rather than later, hopefully we'll all be together and we'll do all kinds of fun things to celebrate. So happy Easter, and everyone have a great day.